Hi, how are you? I hope you're having a great day. Got a candle burning right there and one over there. Smelling good in here. Oh, I need to see. So today let's talk about proving that fibromyalgia is an autoimmune condition, or at the very least is a chronic immune condition. Let's see where this takes us. We know that a person with lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, both autoimmune diseases, are more likely to develop fibromyalgia than any other person. Why is that? About 2% of adults worldwide have fibromyalgia, but about 25% of people with lupus also have fibromyalgia. And 10 to 20% of people with rheumatoid arthritis have fibromyalgia. It's believed that chronic inflammation may activate fibromyalgia. So why? About 43% of people with ankylosing spondylitis, another autoimmune condition, has fibro. And why is this? We know that if you have one autoimmune disease, you're highly likely to develop another autoimmune disease. And about 25% of people with one autoimmune disease will develop another autoimmune disease. There's 25.5 million people just in the United States who have an autoimmune condition. So how does this relate to fibromyalgia? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Here we go. An autoimmune disease is one in which the immune system attacks healthy cells in your organs and tissues. In healthy individuals, the immune system will only attack the invaders in our system, like viruses and bacteria that don't belong there. Well, recently, an individual who has a right to their opinion stated in the comment section of my channel that fibromyalgia is not an autoimmune disease because there would be damage to the body. And she states that no damage is shown in fibromyalgia. I couldn't find her comment. I don't know if it's been deleted, but I'm just paraphrasing here. She mentioned that she has lupus. I'm saying she, I don't know she or he, and that lupus has caused damage to her body. I get that. I feel for her. And if you do a quick Google search, you get that fibro does not show damage to the body and is not an autoimmune condition. I mean, it's everywhere that fibromyalgia causes pain, but not damage. So I kindly said that I'm sorry that she's going through that, but damage has been found in fibromyalgia. And please don't jump to conclusions before more research is completed. So y'all just hang in there with me. First, let's take a look at what autoimmune means. The definition of autoimmune is relating to disease caused by antibodies or lymphocytes produced against substances naturally present in the body. Most autoimmune diseases cause inflammation, but it's most, not all. Diabetes is autoimmune, but it doesn't cause inflammation, but it does create havoc on the blood sugar levels. And multiple sclerosis, or MS, Doesn't show inflammation, but it's autoimmune. In both of these conditions, however, there is damage to parts of the body. But if there is inflammation, it can affect many parts of the body in other diseases. It all depends on what autoimmune disease a person has. The most common signs of an autoimmune disease are fatigue, muscle aches, joint pain and swelling, skin problems, abdominal pain, digestive problems, swollen glands, and fever. Yesterday, I felt feverish, even though I know I didn't have a fever, but I overdid it. I'll never learn. I was feeling good yesterday, the day before yesterday, so I did some cleaning work around my house, a lot of mopping, and that right there tires me out. But do you ever feel like you have a fever? I mean, I was like this because I just felt fluish. Your head's heavy. It feels like a hot fever without the heat. It's hard to explain. It just feels that way, and it's a weird sensation. Anywho, autoimmunity means the presence of antibodies, which are made by B lymphocytes, remember that, and T lymphocytes, remember that. They are directed against the normal components of a person, and that is called autoantigens. Autoantigens consist primarily of proteins. The antibodies and T lymphocytes that recognize autoantigens are called autoantibodies and autoreactive T cells. There are many types of autoantibodies, and some are found in healthy individuals, but they're kept under control by regulatory mechanisms. But when they mutate, havoc in the immune system creates autoimmunity. And this is why autoimmunity becomes so confusing when it comes to fibromyalgia. The most common type of autoimmunity test is the ANA test. And most of us with fibro have had this test. And many of us have a positive test or several positive tests. But since autoantibodies can be found in healthy people, physicians have to take a deeper look. They call the antibodies that occur naturally in humans natural antibodies. Everyone has them. They're more common in women and increases with age in the general population. But when they mutate, cells are disturbed. This type of autoantibody injures tissues and organs by reproducing other inflammatory cytokines. And this becomes an excellent biomarker for autoimmunity disease, and why researchers are trying to find a biomarker for fibromyalgia. And if they find it, they can find treatment. Autoimmunity develops when the autoreactive B lymphocytes, or autoantibodies, and T lymphocytes cause a pathological and or functional damage to an organ or tissue containing the target autoantigen or autoantigens. The lymphocytes, the B and T cells, are the actual cause of the disease. Immune dysregulation occurs because the lymphocytes are the mechanisms that normally keep them in a normal state, but they fail. This is what causes the pathological damage and what makes it considered a clinical disease. So far, most reporting on fibromyalgia provides a consensus that our immune system is weakened. High counts of white blood cells, where 20 to 40% of lymphocytes are white blood cells, and cytokines, like those found in infection, are observed in fibromyalgia. In addition, our brain's immune system is weakened. Blood flow to the brain's pain center causes increased pain and a weak immune system. And then in December 2021, high levels of CRP, MPV, and PLR and lower T lymphocyte count was found in fibromyalgia. But what about autoimmunity in fibromyalgia? Many studies have found that fibro has autoimmune characteristics. In 2008, elevated numbers of B cells and decreased numbers of T regulatory cells were found, which are associated commonly with autoimmune diseases, as I previously explained. In addition, low cortisol levels, which we've talked about, were found. In a 2020 study, a significantly higher T cell proliferation of lymphocytes were found in fibromyalgia, and researchers stated that autoimmune responses may occur and is believed to be stress-induced beyond the classical antigen-induced activation, what's normally considered the pathway. Lower lymphocyte counts make a person at a higher risk of infection because lymphocytes protect against infection and disease. That's their purpose. But even too high or too low can affect the body's ability to fight infection and disease. This makes me wonder about allergies. How many of you have environmental allergies, or pharmaceutical allergies, or food allergies? In a 1992 study, 38% of people who have chronic rhinitis, sinus infections, also had fibromyalgia. That's a high number. I used to get sinus infections probably 4 times a year. And then my doctor put me on an allergy medicine to take daily. I thought I could take it every day. I just took it periodically. Well, over the years, I finally decided I needed to just get my allergies checked, and they were high. So I got allergy shots for probably 5 years, and I no longer need allergy medicine. What's all this got to do with fibromyalgia? Several studies have confirmed neuroinflammation in fibromyalgia. And immunoglobulin, IgG, is present in blood and tissue fluids. In a 2021 study, the IgG immunoglobulin was taken from humans and put in mice. We've talked about this as well. IgG fights infection from bacteria and viruses. When we're exposed to germs, our body will make antibodies to destroy the germ. And high levels of these antibodies can mean an autoimmune disease or a chronic infection or other problem is present. In that study, fibromyalgia IgG was found to target white matter brain cells, gray matter brain cells, and certain nerve fibers in a harmful way. It showed how immune activity can cause neurological symptoms. I mean, it was revolutionary, really. If fibro is autoimmune, then the body is getting attacked in ways it shouldn't be. There'll be inflammation and damage to the body. Well, researchers have found inflammation and damage. Let me explain. Neuroinflammation is inflammation in the brain and nerves of the spinal cord. In fibromyalgia, numerous regions of the brain have inflammation and specific symptoms occur, such as chronic pain and fatigue, fibromyalgia symptoms. Microglia overactivity was found. A researcher, Jared Younger, believes that the microglia cells in the brain are responsible for fibromyalgia. He stated that fibromyalgia should be treated as an inflammatory disease. Wow. But many researchers have found neuroinflammation and systemic inflammation in the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. Microglia are the most prominent immune cells in the central nervous system. They protect the brain, they support neurons, and they make up about 10% of glia cells. They get rid of waste and dead cells like neurons that aren't communicating properly any longer. I mean, that's an important job. But when there's overactivity, it signals danger. Microglia are usually dormant, but when they become activated, they release cytokines that make us feel sick. It's our immune system fighting off infection or inflammation and why we need to rest. Once they become chronically activated, they release inflammatory chemicals which irritate nerve cells around them. And then this causes inflammation, chronic pain, and fatigue. There's been one treatment that has been shown to reduce microglia activity in fibromyalgia, and it's called low-dose naltrexone, or LDN. I think this is something to look into. I don't know if any of our local rheumatologists would consider that. Maybe you're in an area where one of your physicians would look into how to prescribe that. So researchers have found that in fibromyalgia patients, LDN slows the microglia activity by working as an anti-inflammatory in the central nervous system. It calms down the microglia activity and reduces the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. This then normalizes our system and alleviates the cause and symptoms of fibromyalgia. And it's said to be safe and well tolerated. So this is a big deal. I have puppies waking up. So there is inflammation in the brain, which is an organ, and the spinal cord, which consists of nerve tissue, membranes, and vertebrae. But where is the tissue or organ damage? Well, since the brain is an organ, I just showed how it causes havoc on our brain and havoc on the rest of the system because it's shooting all these pain messages. But it's also been found in small fiber neuropathy, where 40% of people with fibromyalgia also have small fiber neuropathy. So not all of us may have small fiber neuropathy, but is it something that occurs in the beginning of fibromyalgia? Do you have it prior to fibromyalgia? Do you have it years after you develop fibromyalgia? I don't have the answer to that, but that's something I would like to know. But anyway, this explains not just our muscle pain, but also our other soft tissue pain, like in the ligaments, muscle fascia, and tendons. It appears that those with dysautonomia and paresthesias, like numbness, tingling, pricks, electric shock feelings, pins and needles, and possibly burning pain or coldness, tending to be sensitive to heat and cold, usually begin in the hands and feet and then moves to the legs and arms. Dysautonomia is something I discussed in another video. I know I keep saying that, but I did. So if you have POTS, vasovagal syncope, or you get very lightheaded when you stand, then consider having yourself looked at because small fiber neuropathy is progressive. The small nerve fibers affect our sensory nerves, our sweat glands, our gastrointestinal system, blood vessels, and our heart, because the peripheral nervous system is affected. And yes, in those small nerve fibers, the nerves are damaged. Most importantly, there are autoantibodies in fibromyalgia. I posted a great article that breaks this down in an easier and understandable way. But autoantibodies are found in many areas of the body, not just one area. I think the problem for some physicians is that none of the autoantibodies were found in every person with fibromyalgia. I mean, with serotonin, that rate is 73%. That's the highest. And gangliosides was at 71%. So I think that the mindset of what typical inflation is like has to change. Neuroinflammation is also inflammation. It's in the brain and spinal cord. So it's different than in a kidney or bladder, for example, but the brain is an organ. Instead of causing inflammation in those areas I just mentioned, like a kidney or intestine or lungs or whatever, it's causing inflammation. The symptoms become neurological. So it's definitely a different mindset. And if you have small fiber neuropathy, well, there's plenty of damage there too. I know this was another long video. I took out stuff and I'd add in and I took out. So thank you for hanging in there with me. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something and this was helpful. I just want to see change in the medical community. I want to be heard and our voice and illness to matter and for us to be taken seriously. I send you gentle hugs and support. Love you. But when we're supposed to end fibromyalgia, In fibromyalgia, numerous causes inflammation